Hello friends of paperbound knowledge transfer, and welcome to another book review. Today I'm doing a special video because it is the first video in the 12 or 13 video series about a series of 12 books that I'm going to do in the future. So today's book is about the book The Earliest Ships, the evolution of boats into ships. This book is the first in a 12-part series about the history of the ship from its very beginnings in this book right up to the 1990s in the last book, book number 12. These books were published by the Conway's publishing house in the UK in the 1990s in a not chronological order. That means this book is topic-wise the first book, The Earliest Ships, but it was not published as the first book, but only in 1996. I think the first ones were published in 1991. Conway's is an old British publishing house that used to specialize heavily on books with naval topics. So now let's delve right into the book. So let's now have a closer look at what contents the book contains and how it is structured. The book is made up of several semi-independent articles by different experts in the field. So you noticed I didn't talk about one author of the book, and that is because the book is written by several experts in their fields, and they are the contributors, and they contribute one or two articles for the book, and those are then put together in the book as one package, and they kind of provide a view or an overview over the topic. Of those articles, there are 8 dealing with different topics around the main topic. Those articles are illustrated quite well. They have pictures of models, they have graphics, and other things that try and bring the different topics of the articles to life and also do that quite well. Those articles deal, for example, with the very beginnings of boat building in Central Europe, but also then in a roughly chronological manner with boat and shipbuilding in the Bronze Age, Mediterranean sailing ships, Celtic watercraft, Norse shipping, and also in one article with the Greater Asian development of seafaring craft in that period. The book is then rounded off by an article about the problems of actually recreating for study one or two or some of the boats that have been found archaeologically, and an article about ancient navigation techniques and ship handling in Europe. In total, the articles don't only deal with the topics at hand in the article, but also give sometimes a quite broad overview about things that are important for the understanding of that article. So for example, early seafaring or boat building in Europe was of course quite interdependent on how the societies were structured, and what kind of cargo was being transported and where the trade networks went. It was quite an interesting topic for me, and I learned a lot about that. At the end of the book there also is a quite extensive bibliography and a glossary of terms and concepts used in the book. All in all, quite a nice all-round look on the topic. Let's now have a look at the positive and negative aspects of this book in my view. I think the big problem with this book is that it's already 25 years old. And that is not bad in itself, but it is a problem because, as far as I know, there has been quite some development in the understanding of early boat building and seafaring since then. The book alludes, or some articles allude to some things like the find of the so-called Dover boat, an early, I think, Bronze Age boat, which was found in the 1990s, but hadn't quite been fully looked at, and the finds had not been published when the book was written. But since then, of course, it has happened. There has been a recreation of that. There's a nice Time Team documentary about that. I'll put it in the subscription. So a lot of stuff that has come out in the last 25 years is not in it. So yeah, that is a problem. So now, can't help that. Then, of course, the graphics and pictures are on the level of the 1990s. So today we would likely have a bit, a bit more fleshed out, a bit nicer, but that's not big of a problem. And owing to the structure of the book with the different independent articles by different independent contributors, some information is repeated sometimes. But that's also quite okay for me. Now for the positive points. This book contains a wealth of information, a good in-depth or pretty in-depth look, and a lot of context. For example, the trade networks that I've already mentioned. Also interesting is for maybe some people that it can be read by topic. So if you are only interested in Mediterranean sailing craft, you only read that article and you're good. You don't need to read the rest of the book. And I think the big plus of this book, and why I went and got it, although it is already quite old and can sometimes be quite costly on the internet, is that it is part of a 12-part series that goes through the entire development of ships. So when you read this, then you get, or the entire series, then you get an understanding of the entire history of ships. And that is what I'm aiming for, and I think that's a big plus, that it is in this context, and that there's all this context following, and that there's all the stories still to be read after this book. My final verdict on this book. I think, viewed in isolation, this book is a good book. But some of the information in it is a bit dated. So it would be nice to have an updated version of it that incorporates what was learned in the last 25 years. So if you are looking for a book with information on this topic, which is one step down from the really serious research papers on that topic, then this book is good for you. Or if you want to be part of the journey of this 12-book part series on the entire history of the book, then this book is also good, because it lays the groundwork, and you can start from there and go further in your studies on the history of the book and get this entire picture in. Put in other words, if that's true for you, what I've just said, and you can find a cheap version of it on eBay, go for it. If you are not as interested in quite so deep information on this topic, then maybe a one volume book about the history of the ship, I think there are some out there, is better suited for you. In terms of further reading, what I recommend to you is the next book in the series, that is The Age of the Galley Mediterranean Oared Vessels Since Pre-Classical Times. And that's the next book in the series. It continues the story, and it's also a lot bigger, thicker, and it's very interesting and really gives you all the information on that topic that you ever would want, I think. So, thank you for watching. I hope you found the video interesting. I will continue the series in the future. I hope you will like that as well. Have fun reading. Have a nice day. Goodbye.